Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Nutrition and Child Care, CNCC. CNCC-2, Organizing Child Care Services, Block 1 Introduction to Child Care and Development, Unit-5 Importance of Play in Development. 5.1, Introduction. In Unit-4 you read that programs for children must be based on play as the medium of learning and instruction. Why do we say this? Can children learn through play? If so, what do they learn through play? You will read the answers to such questions in this unit. You will also study about the factors that influence the nature of children's play. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to times define the characteristics of play, times discuss the role of play in the development of children, times explain that observation of children's play can be used to understand their development, times detail the kinds of play, times describe the factors that influence children's play. 5.2, What is play? All children play. It would be rare and very surprising to see a group of children sitting together quietly without doing anything. Even if a child is alone, you can be sure that she would find something or the other to play with. Not only children, but adults also play. What do we mean by play? Let us look at some activities of children to understand the meaning of play. 3-year-old Abhinav, strolling in the garden, picks up the pipe that is used for watering plants. He holds it at a height and observes the water falling on the grass. He looks back at the end of the pipe attentively and puts his finger into it. This makes the water spray out in all directions. Some water falls on his clothes and some on the plants. He takes his finger out of the pipe and puts it back again. He remains engrossed in this activity for the next 10 minutes. 5-month-old Shashi is lying on a sheet spread out on the floor. She kicks her legs and waves her arms about and in the process manages to get the corner of the sheet in her hand. She tries to put it in her mouth. Her mother takes the sheet out of her mouth and gives Shashi a toy. Shashi puts it in her mouth, then squeezes it in her hand and then again tries to put the toy in her mouth. A group of 8-year-old boys is playing in the open. 2 boys hold hands and try to catch the others. They finally manage to catch one of them, who then holds hands with them and then the 3 start chasing the others. If any observer is asked what the children are doing in each of the 3 situations, the answer would probably double 0. They are playing. Observers usually agree on which activities should be seen as play and which ones should not. However, when asked to define play, no 2 experts agree on a single definition. Despite these differences, certain characteristics of play have been detailed which help us to identify activities which can be considered play. Firstly, play is fun. Any activity that the child finds enjoyable is play. The same activity can be play or work for different people. For example, for a carpenter making a wooden table is work. But for another person who is doing it for enjoyment it is a hobby. The same activity can be play or work for a person under different situations. For instance, when children learn the denominations of coins in the classroom they are working. But when they play a game of selling and buying vegetables and in the process learn about denominations of coins, the activity is play. Secondly, play is enjoyable for its own sake, it is its own reward. Play activities provide satisfaction to children. When a child jumps from a step and then climbs back to jump again, she is doing it simply because she is enjoying it. She is not showing her skills to get praise or to win a prize. At the same time, the child is developing physical and motor skills, though this may not have been the child's goal. Finally, play is that activity in which participation is spontaneous and of the child's own will. She has not been forced to participate. Also, the participation is active. Only if the child is doing something will the activity be considered play. It is often thought that when children are playing, they are not serious about the activity. This is not so. Children take their play very seriously. Any interference or change made in their activity by someone who is not participating is not appreciated. They have their own rules for play activities. Researchers have tried to find reasons why children and adults spend such a lot of time in play. There are many different views about this. Some view play as a way of escaping from life's problems and from reality and as a means of forgetting one's troubles. Play is also seen as an activity for relaxation. Others view it as an activity that helps to use the excess energy of an individual. On the play of children, an important viewpoint is that through play children prepare for adult roles. Besides knowing why children and adults play, it is important to understand what happens through play. All researchers agree that children learn through play and that play fosters development. Evidence from studies reveals that children who have no opportunities for play and stimulation lag behind in all areas of development. Observations of children who have been abandoned by their parents or have been separated from them and placed in children's homes and similar institutions have led to some conclusions regarding the role of play in development. Institutions provide food, shelter, clothing and education. However, research has shown that in most cases the institutions are unable to provide the environment necessary for a child's optimal development. Often one caregiver looks after a large number of children and is unable to spend enough time with each child. Infants are not talked to, played with or picked up. The emphasis is mostly on routine physical care, changing clothes, giving food and health checkups. Even on such occasion there is minimal talk or interaction of the adults with the children. The social interaction with the nurturer and caregiver is missing. In some institutions it was seen that children were placed in cribs with the sides covered with cloth. As a result, they could not see beyond the crib. They had no toys except those hanging by the cord at the top of the crib, which the child could not reach. The children's entire day was spent lying in the crib with nothing new to see, hear or touch. In their cases cognitive, language, physical and motor development was slow. Merely removing the cloth covers from the cribs so that the infants could see other cribs and adults moving about made a marked difference to their liveliness and alertness. Check your progress exercise. 1. 1. The words written below are characteristics of children's play about which you have read in this section. They have been written in a jumbled way. Write them correctly in the space provided. For example, UTB but. A. NUF. B. Spoanionus. C. WN overrad. D. VLTECA. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 5.3 Role of Play in Development. Let us now read in detail how play fosters development in all areas. 5th March 2001. Play promotes cognitive development. You know that children are curious by nature. Play situations provide opportunities to handle and examine objects and explore the surroundings, which help children to find answers to the questions in their minds and understand why things happen the way they do. By allowing children to play as they like, we help them in learning. Play allows children to discover and learn for themselves. To discover means to find out about things and events for oneself. The following anecdote shows how Radha, a 4-year-old, discovers the properties of a mud pot while playing. Radha was playing near a ladder which was resting against a wall. She saw a small clay pot lying nearby. She played with it by filling it with mud and emptying it. After some time she picked up the pot and tried to balance it on the step of the ladder. It fell down and broke. She looked at it for a while, picked up one of the pieces and put it on the step again. The piece fell down and broke into smaller pieces. Radha repeated her experiment again with one of these smaller pieces. This time the piece fell down but did not break. She picked up this piece, looked at it for a while, then threw it away and went inside the house. That Radha repeatedly tried to balance the piece and saw it fall down makes it clear that her curiosity was aroused. Perhaps the questions that came to her mind were, will the piece fall again? If it does, will it break? Therefore, she tried to balance the piece repeatedly. When the piece did not break the third time, she was equally curious. Perhaps in her own way she noticed that a very small piece does not break, but does not understand why it is so. Her curiosity may lead her to ask somebody why the pieces always fell down and broke and why the last piece did not break. She is certain to have many similar experiences during the course of her play, and these will help her in understanding what happens to things when they fall. Of course, it is true that the small piece will also break if it is thrown with greater force, and maybe an older child would have tried this. But Radha does not have the capacity as yet to understand this. This shows that the child learns what she is cognitively ready to learn, as you have read in Unit 3. This is also related to the fact that what the child finds stimulating depends upon her cognitive skills. Now consider the second point about how play helps in development. In play, children have the freedom to choose things which are of interest to them. They will choose those activities for play that are neither too simple nor too tough, as these would be challenging and interesting. This way they learn things that they are ready to learn. Thus learning becomes a pleasure and not a burden. It must be emphasized that play helps children to learn by doing. This leads to a better understanding of a concept than when the child is simply told about it without being allowed to try it out. You would understand this from your own experiences. For example, cooking something is a different experience from merely hearing a recipe from a friend. Similarly, if you had just told Radha that a small piece of baked clay would not break on falling, it is most likely that she would not have understood or even been interested. Role of the caregiver. The fact that children learn during their play does not mean that the caregiver has no role in helping children learn through play. Firstly, the caregiver is needed to help the children understand their discoveries. Radha may have realized that small pieces do not break, but we cannot be sure. Of course, she will understand this as she has other such opportunities, but the caregiver can help the child do learn from this experience itself. She can draw the child's attention to the possibilities she may have missed. For example, if the caregiver had been with Radha, she could have said, Radha, did you see that the pot breaks but small pieces do not break? Thus helping Radha to understand what she had seen. Secondly, the caregiver can extend the child's discovery. She could have asked Radha to throw the piece on a softer surface like sand or grass or in water and see what happens. This would have led to earlier discoveries such as the pot does not break in the water. In addition, the caregiver should provide opportunities for discovery. When children are allowed to handle play and materials and encouraged to do things on their own, they learn. Finally, the caregiver does not always have to wait for the children to discover something. She can plan children's activities in such a way that they lead to discovery. While doing so, the caregiver must be guided by children's interest and their level of understanding. For example, take water play. The caregiver can provide containers of water and an assortment of things some which float and some which sink. As children put these things in the water, they will observe that while some things, like leaves, twigs and bits of paper float, others such as spoons and pebbles sink. This can then lead to discussions about things that sink and float and why. Through play, the caregiver can help the children learn concepts of color, shapes, numbers, seasons of the year, names of birds and plants, etc. They also learn concepts of big and small, tall and short, light and heavy, etc. Just as for cognitive development, the caregiver is needed to plan and conduct activities to foster _6 in other areas also. You will read about the various activities the caregiver can plan in the following blocks. Importance of play in development. 5th March 2002, play promotes imagination and creativity. In play, children imagine what it is to be like someone else, to feel, act, think, work and behave like them. For example, when the child is playing mother to the doll, she tells the doll that she cannot get a sweet because it is harmful. This is exactly the explanation offered to the child by her mother when she had asked for a sweet. The child is thus learning the appropriate behavior by imitation during play. Make-believe is a part of children's play. In play, it is possible to be creative and to do more than in reality. A broken plate may become a table for a 3-year-old girl and a complicated spaceship for a 10-year-old child. A string of matchboxes can be a train. Playing with this train, children may pretend to pass through a forest, cross a river and fight with robbers. Do not be surprised if the train moves on a road instead of a rail track. Play does not have to be a mirror of reality. Rather, it provides a flexible situation which allows the child to be creative. It nurtures imagination which helps the child to deal with day-to-day situations. 5th March 2003, play promotes physical and motor development. You have read that physical development and acquisition of motor skills depend upon the maturation of the parts of the body and the opportunities available to the child to practice these skills. Play provides the child with opportunities to practice. The following anecdote illustrates this. The mother of a 4-month-old infant playfully moves the rattle in front of the child. The infant, attracted by the rattle, tries to turn on her stomach to reach for it. To do this, she has to coordinate the movement of various muscles. Repeated efforts to reach for the rattle give the infant an opportunity to practice and thus perfect the skill of rolling over. When children balance on bricks, jump over walls, climb steps, hang from bars, play games of chase and ride bicycles, the coordination of their large muscles improves. Playing with a stick and digging holes with it in the ground, making a necklace by threading leaves, drawing and painting give the child practice for fine motor coordination. 5th March 2004, play helps in acquiring language. You will read in the subsequent blocks how children learn the language. However, it is evident that to learn a language one has to hear it and practice speaking it. The playful interactions with caregivers give the child plenty of opportunities to hear the language and motivate her to speak. When the infant is about 9 months of age, her vocalizations are a repetition of syllables like gaga, bebeb, mamama, and mamma mumti. When the mother hears the sounds that resemble adult speech, she feels happy, responds to the child and encourages her to repeat the sounds. This is the beginning of the speech. During these interactions, the child also learns to discriminate sounds. This would later help her to differentiate words such as car, from, bar, and thus recognize them as 2 different words. In play, the child begins to understand different shapes such as square, circle, straight line and curved line, which will help her later to differentiate the letters of the alphabet. She will also learn that a black and a red circle or a small and a big circle are all circles. This helps her to understand that the letter C is the same whether it is capital or small, whether it is at the beginning of the word or at the end. She learns the meaning of before and after, left and right, up and down, concepts that are necessary for learning to read and write. You have already seen that play helps in fine motor development which is required for writing. You know that children spontaneously learn only those things that they are interested in. This is true of learning to read and write as well. Listening to stories will create in the child a desire to read them herself and will motivate her to learn to read and write. If a child does not know how to write and is forced by the caregiver to write letters of the alphabet, the repeated trials and failures may discourage her. If this learning is made into a game where the child is asked to place small stones on the drawing on the floor, walk over the shape or join the dots the educator draws for her, She will gradually become familiar with the outline. She will find this activity fun and in the process learn how to write without feeling forced. 5th March 2005, through play the child learns to be social. In the first few months, the interactions of the caregiver with the infant as she bathes, feeds, clothes her and puts her to sleep help the child to recognize the caregiver and to develop an attachment with her. This, as you know, is the infant's first social relationship which has a lasting impact on her future relationships with people. During the first year of life, the baby plays with and explores her own body and things within her immediate reach. This helps her to understand that her body is separate from other objects in the surroundings and leads to the development of the concept of self. During play the infant begins to understand the effect she has on people and objects in the environment. When she cries, the mother comes to her. When she laughs, the mother also laughs and hugs her. When playing with the box she notices that the box moves towards her when she pulls it. All this gives her an idea of what she can do. Exploring the environment and mastering situations give her confidence and a feeling of independence. As she grows older, she plays with other children and learns to share, follows the rules of the game and waits for her turn to play. Thus she begins to learn to take into consideration another person's point of view. During play children often imitate adults. In this way, they learn roles that they would be required to play in later life and to behave as others expect. Interacting with people in play they learn about different types of occupations, festivals, traditions and beliefs. 5th March 2006, play helps in emotional development. Children's play provides them opportunities to express delight, joy, anger, fear, distress and other emotions. In play there is the freedom to do as one chooses, so long as one does not hurt others. Play allows the expression of feelings and emotions which may not be allowed in other situations. Pretending to be the father, the child can ask another child to obey her, which she may not be able to do in other situations. Playing the scene of a battle she can scream loudly, throw things about and pretend to point hit others which would not be allowed at other times. 4-year-old Raza was often scolded by his parents for the most minor violation of a rule. For the slightest misdeed, he was slapped or hit with the father's belt. This child would often sit on a chair and pretend that it was a horse. He would hit the chair with the belt and say, "Go faster, faster still." The child is obviously full of anger and resentment toward his father but cannot vent his feelings at him. The imaginary play situation gives the child a way to express his anger. It helps him to work out his emotions. You would have also seen that children's play reflects their moods and feelings. For this reason, play is also used as a treatment or a therapy for children who do not show normal emotional reactions to situations. As you would have understood from the discussions in this section, play prepares the child for what lies ahead by aiding her development. The concepts she learns during play, the emerging skills of reading and writing and the ability to participate in a group will help her later to adjust in school. Play thus helps in academic readiness. Play also nurtures the spirit of inquiry and a desire to find out. The child's increasing self-confidence as she learns and masters new things makes her sure of herself and willing to accept challenges. Check your progress exercise. 2. 1. The paragraph given below describes a play situation. Read it carefully and in the space provided write about any 2 areas of development which are being fostered through the play activity. Describe how this happens in each case in 3 to 4 lines as illustrated in the example below. Play situation. A group of 4-year-olds is playing in the open. Some children are shrieking and chasing each other. 4 are playing on the swing. Each child waits for her turn to swing. One child pushes the swing for the others. While waiting for their turn, 2 children begin to play in the sand. They draw shapes with a stick. One child says, "I have made a parrot." The other child says, "I have made an elephant." Do you know what happened to the elephant in the jungle? He fell down in a river, and then, in this way, the child went on to narrate an imaginary incident. The child who is pushing the swing counts till the swing goes back and forth 10 times and then asks the child who is swinging to get off. The next child then gets her turn. Example. Language development. During the course of play children are talking to each other. One child is telling the other an imaginary incident. She is putting events in sequence and is using words to express herself. Thus language development is being fostered. 2. In 3 lines write how play fosters emotional development. 3. List 4 ways in which the caregiver can help children learn through play. 5.4. Play as a means of understanding children's development. Observations of children at play can provide considerable information about their point, abilities, level of understanding / and personality traits. This is because while playing children are not inhibited or conscious and, therefore, one can see them at their best. Their play is not being controlled by adults. Let us read how to play situations can provide an insight into children's development. When the mother tries to amuse the infant by shaking her bangles and the child does not respond to the sound on more than an occasion, it is a cause for concern. It can imply that there is some problem with the child's hearing which must be investigated. The child's ability to separate stones according to size, leaves according to their shape, or to group flowers according to their color reflects an understanding of these concepts: size, shape and color. Thus these play activities help us to know about child's cognitive abilities. The following incident shows how observations of play help us to assess whether children have understood concepts or are repeating them from memory. A 3-year-old child could recite numbers from 1 to 9 in the correct sequence. This would make us think that the child knows numbers. But observation of the child during play showed that this was not true. While playing with stones with another child, she said, "You take 1 stone and I will take 4. She gave the child 1 but picked a handful for herself, saying that they were 4. The child knew the meaning of 1 and many but did not know the difference between 2, 3, 4 or 5. The level of physical and motor development can be gauged when children jump from heights, climb trees, play games that require them to hop on one leg or climb steps, play with pebbles or sand, and so on. Some children at 4 years of age tell stories fluently and eloquently. This reflects their mastery of language and the cognitive ability to string together sentences in a logically correct sequence. The child's drawings and stories, apart from reflecting her motor and cognitive skills, may also give us an idea about her emotional development. Play also reflects the child's social development, as in the following case. While playing, Anita fell down and started to cry. Pavik, 4.5 years old, saw Anita crying. He walked up to her, wiped her tears and said, "Don't cry. Is it hurting? I also feel pain when I fall. Let us put some medicine on it. It will become better." This incident reflects that Pavik could understand that Anita was hurt and must be feeling pain. He was able to see the event from her point of view and understand her emotions. 5.5. Play and learning. So far we have discussed the meaning of the play and how it helps in children's development. Let us now read why play should be the medium of learning for children. 5th May 2001. In infancy, thought develops through activity. By the time the child is 3 years of age, she can express her needs verbally, talk to people, make friends, walk, run and jump. The child understands what others say and interacts with her mother, father, sister and many others. How does she learn all this? As an infant, the only way the child can learn is by doing an activity and finding out for herself. She plays with things to learn about them. She wants to hold them, put them in her mouth and show them to others. While playing with things, the child gradually learns that objects not visible to her do exist somewhere else. When things fall down, the infant learns that they may break. In the early years, learning of social, cognitive, language and motor skills is possible only through play. 5th May 2002. Children learn by doing. A well-accepted fact is that learning by DF. This the best way to learn. When a child throws a stone in water and sees it sink to the bottom and then throws a stick and sees it float, she realizes that some things sink and others float. After repeated experiments and clarifications from adults, she understands why some things sink and some float. Instead of being allowed to do this activity, if the child was merely TPLD about this concept, it would not be so clear to her. 5th May 2003. Play holds the child's attention. Children have a short span of attention. They cannot attend to one activity for long nor sit in one place for long. Formal instruction where the teacher talks and child listens, as happens in most preschools, is not the best way to help them learn because they get bored or distracted soon. In the early years, imparting concepts through play is most effective. Play involves the children physically and holds their attention in one activity for longer periods and, therefore, aids learning. 5th May 2004. Learning through play is fun. Play is not an activity thrust on the child by the adult. It is something she does on her own because she enjoys it. It is only fair that we help children learn through ways they enjoy and make learning a stimulating and rewarding experience for them. As mentioned earlier, when allowed to play and choose activities, children pick those that they find interesting and challenging. Play, therefore, is an enjoyable medium through which children learn things they are ready to learn. 5.6. Kinds of play. Play activities of children can be classified in a number of ways. Some classifications take the play space into consideration, some are based on the content of the activity and others on the skills needed for the play activity. Different classifications are used for convenience. However, they overlap with one another. Free and structured play. Some play activities are planned by the caregiver with goals and objectives in mind. In such an activity, the child follows some of the instructions of the caregiver. On the basis of whether the child is free to play as she likes or follows some rules and steps laid down by the caregiver, play is categorized as free or structured. When, for example, the child is playing with clay as she likes, the activity is referred to as free play. On the other hand, when the caregiver intervenes and gives suggestions like, let us go out and make cups and saucers with clay, with a view to strengthening the child's concept of shape, the play becomes structured. This, however, does not imply that free play does not achieve anything. All play leads to learning. The difference is that in structured play, what is hoped to be achieved by the activity is determined by the educator. Both kinds of play are essential for children. Free play helps to sustain curiosity and initiative and fosters discovery. Structured play, because of the role of the caregiver, helps to draw the attention of the child to various aspects which she may miss during free play. In this way, it helps to ensure that a particular goal is attained. However, the caregiver should be careful that the activity that she has planned is enjoyable for the child. Outdoor and indoor play, as the name suggests, games that are usually played in the open are referred to as outdoor play, while those that are played inside are indoor play. Outdoor play allows a greater degree of physical activity and freedom of movement as there is more space and fewer obstructions. Indoor activities are carried out in a limited space and do not allow so much freedom of movement. In a way, the distinction between outdoor and indoor play is arbitrary. Many indoor play activities can be conducted outdoors and outdoor games can be played inside too. Children can paint sitting in a room or they can do so in the open. A game of cricket, with modifications, can be played inside a room. Sometimes the indoor activities when conducted outside break the monotony and make the same activity new and interesting for the child. Individual and group play. When the child plays by herself, it is referred to as individual play. When she plays with other children, it is referred to as group play. Playing in a group requires the child to take into consideration another person's point of view and follow rules. These abilities, as you have read, develop with age. Till the children are about 3 to 4 years old, they mostly play by themselves, interacting with others only for a short duration. As children grow older, they learn to play with others and a major part of their playtime is spent in group play. However, from time to time the older children too go back to playing by themselves. Group play fosters in the child social skills necessary for interaction with others. Individual play gives the child time to work on things that she finds most interesting and helps her to develop her skills. Vigorous and quiet play. Sometimes adults exclaim, why can't children sit in one place? Why do they have to keep running about? Children enjoy play activities that require them to run, hop, skip and jump, that is, those that require them to spend a lot of energy. These activities are called vigorous play activities. Play that does not involve too much physical activity such as scribbling with chalk on the floor, drawing, making objects from clay or making a tower of stones helps the child to relax and regain so the energy spent during vigorous games. These play activities are called quiet play. Sensorimotor and symbolic play. Early infancy children play with things in the environment that are within reach. They see, touch, smell, taste and hear and explore the environment and gain information. These activities involve the senses and require motor coordination and are referred to as sensorimotor play. Towards the end of infancy, the child begins to take part in pretend play. In this play, the child pretends that a tin box is a house or a wooden block is an aeroplane. Thus a particular object is used as a thing which it actually is not. She can play the role of others and pretend to be a fruit seller, a teacher, a flower seller, etc. This kind of play requires the cognitive ability to use things and people as symbols. It also requires imagination and an ability to make believe. This play is referred to as symbolic play and is possible only as a result of the development of cognitive abilities in the preschool years. The transition from sensorimotor to symbolic play is based on increasing complexity in children's thought. You must have realized that these classifications of play are overlapping. Free play can be outdoor or indoor. Group play can be quiet or vigorous. What is important is that the child should get an opportunity for every kind of play since each has its own use times. Check your progress exercise. 3. 1. Fill in the blanks in the following sentences. A. Observation of children's play provides information about their blank. It, therefore, helps to assist their blank in all spheres. B. Play should be the medium of learning for children because learning by is the best way to learn and learning through play is blank. C. Play activities in which children follow instructions of the caregiver are blank and the ones in which the child is free to do what she wants are blank. D. Games that are usually played out in the open are blank, while those that is played in the room are blank. E. When the child plays by herself, it is referred to as blank play and when she plays with other children it is called blank play. F. Activities that require children to spend a lot of energy are referred to as blank play activities. On the other hand, play that does not involve too much physical activity is blank play. 5.7 Factors affecting play. The kind of games children play, the play material used, the content of their play and the time they are able to spend in play are influenced by many factors. In this section you will learn how these factors influence play. 5th July 2001, Age. The age of the child influences the kind of play activity chosen. A 6-month-old child plays by picking up the objects in her reach and examining them. For a 4-year-old child, riding a tricycle and making objects with sand is great fun. An 8-year-old child likes to ride a bicycle, climb trees and play hopscotch. The kind of play the child chooses is determined by her skills and abilities. In the examples mentioned above, the physical skills influence the kind of activities children choose. The increasing social competence of the growing child changes the quality of interaction between children and thus influence the kinds of play activities. 3-year-old children will not be able to play games that require them to cooperate with each other, play as a team and follow rules, which 8-year-olds can do very well. The content of children's play also varies with age. When, for example, a 6-year-old child is playing with a doll, her conversation with the doll will be different from that of a 3-year-old. The 6-year-old child will probably plan details such as dressing the doll for school, teaching her, discussing her progress with her parents, taking her out to play and so forth. The 3-year-old's game with the doll will be simpler. The amount of time that the child spends in a particular play activity is also determined by her age. As you know, the younger the child, the lesser is her attention span for a particular activity and, therefore, the more frequent are the changes in play activities. Though age has a definite role in influencing children's play, you must not forget that there are individual differences and preferences. A 5-year-old child, for example, may spend less time in group play than other children of her age. 5th July 2002, Gender. Can you think of some games that are played primarily by boys and those that are played only by girls? Do you think girls and boys are born with such play preferences? What are the things that distinguish the games that girls play from those that boys play? The amount of physical activity, the type of play material and toys used for play, and the theme of the game are some of the ways in which their play differs. If you observe infant boys and girls, you would notice that their play activities are similar. Their play is the exploration of their body and objects nearby. But as children grow older, they show preferences in play activities. This difference in their play increases with age. Girls like to wear their mother's dress, play with dolls, pretend to cook food, sew and play hopscotch. Boys like to wear their father's clothes, ride a bullock cart, plow the field or play with guns. Studies that have compared the play of boys and girls report that boys are observed to engage in physical fights in play and show a more competitive spirit than girls. Girls are more cooperative in play. Boys engage in more vigorous games compared to girls. What could be the reasons for this? Physiological differences between boys and girls could be one of the reasons. Physiology influences the amount of physical activity that a child can do. This would have an impact on the games children choose, with boys choosing vigorous games. But much of the play preferences of children are a consequence of social expectations and stereotypes. The child's gender influences the expectations people have from her, and this, in turn, affects her play preferences. Let us understand this from the following example. You must have observed that a boy is usually able to climb a tree better than a girl. It is not as if the girl is physiologically unable to climb trees. She can. But perhaps, when the girl first climbed a tree, she was told by her mother to be more girl-like and do things that girls do. The boy, on the other hand, was praised for his efforts. Thus the boy learns to climb trees more efficiently than the girl. In day-to-day activities, girls are required to look after younger siblings and help in the household work. Their play thus reflects such a situation. Boys may help the father in the field or do outdoor jobs, and these situations appear in their play. In the present times, especially in urban areas, girls can be observed playing the role of doctor or policewoman in their play, as more women are seen engaged in these professions. Parents foster play preferences by giving different play materials to boys and girls. Girls are given dolls, utensils and the like to play with. Boys are given guns and cars as toys. Harry, a 4-year-old, when asked by his sister to play with her dolls, refused, emphatically saying, "I don't like to play the games of girls." But he can be seen playing with the dolls when he thinks no one is looking. Certainly, he does not have an inborn dislike for doll play. 5th July 2003, Culture. You would recall reading that culture influences one's way of life. It also influences child rearing practices. There are several such practices, some of which will be mentioned here. In some parts of our country, massaging infants is a traditional practice which delights the infant. During this activity, the mother usually sings songs to the child, talks to her and plays with her. In all parts of India, there is a rich variety of mother-infant games. The infant's fee, in this context, is very different from those who live in another culture. As children grow older, their play reflects the roles they will be expected to play in adult life. These roles are in turn determined by culture. The theme of children's play would also include the traditional festivals and customs specific to the society they live in. All cultures have a rich heritage of toss. Excavations of cultures as old as the Indus Valley civilization has revealed the use of toss. Studies in our country have shown that the play materials available to children vary from region to region. Orissa has beautiful puppets and masks. Chennapatna in Kamtaka and Kondapalli in Andhra Pradesh produce wooden toys. In Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, folk toys and commercially produced toys exist side by side. In contrast, in Manipur and Tripura hardly any commercial toys are available. Here parents make toys at home for children. In most parts of our country, the celebration of festivals is a time when a lot of folk toys are available. These toys have educational value as do some commercially produced toys. 5th July 2004, Social Class. For children of the lower social class who spend the major part of the day in assisting parents in work, there is very time set aside for play. They find time for play amidst their work. Children from middle and high social classes have more time for leisure and play because they do not need to participate in income-generating activities. At the same time, there are children whose parents put great stress on academic achievement and, consequently, curtail their playtime. Children like to collect stones, bottle caps, empty tins, etc. It is not uncommon to empty out a child's pocket and to find an assortment of such things. Sometimes a corner in the house is used by the child to store pebbles and shells or other things she likes. An expensive decorated doll or a shell gathered at the beach are equally attractive to a young child, whether rich or poor. Social class only makes a difference in the availability of more expensive toys to children. Children who belong to economically well-off families have access to play materials available in the market. When ready-made play material is not within the reach of a family, used tires, rims of wheels, empty boxes, lids of bottles, used matchboxes, old newspapers, etc. are used for play. Children in such situations may need to be more creative in developing the kinds of materials they can use for play. Social class may also determine the space available for play. Children who live in big houses with gardens may use this space for play. Other children who live in one-room dwellings will have to find play space in the streets, lanes and roads or parks. You would recall that in a family from the lower social class all the adults are involved in income-generating activities. Parents have little time to participate in children's play and guide it. Parents from the middle and upper classes are likely to spend more time with their children. They are usually more educated and they may be more aware of the importance of play in children's development. They may, therefore, ensure that children get enough opportunities for play. However, education does not ensure an attitude which is sensitive to the needs of the child. An uneducated parent can be equally sensitive to the child's needs and provide play experiences. 5th July 2005, Ecologian setting. The city with its crowded living conditions offers little open space for play. But children still manage to find space. You can see them playing in the narrow lanes, on the roads alongside the traffic and on the terraces of houses. Playgrounds are very few in number and wide open spaces are difficult to find. There are very few opportunities to play in streams and ponds, climb trees or observe the plants growing in the fields. Rural and tribal areas provide more open space for play and the children are closer to nature. 5th July 2006, Media. The print media, i.e. books and magazines, as well as the audiovisual media, i.e. radio and television, have a strong influence on children's play. There are many illustrated books and magazines and there is a variety of programs for children on radio and television. Children eagerly act out the stories they have read, sing a tune heard on the radio and enthusiastically watch the programs on the television and imitate the characters. The media often support the stereotypes of society. These are reflected in children's play. The media bring the world closer to children and provide them with information. The vast amount of information that children get through the media can prove useful if guided by adults. The print and the audiovisual media differ greatly with regard to the type of stimulation they provide to children. Books require children to read and find out for themselves. This process of learning requires the active participation of children and thus fosters a spirit of inquiry and curiosity. Television and radio programs, on the other hand, usually require children to sit passively, listen and watch. Generally, the programs tell them what they should know instead of allowing them an opportunity for discovery. Thus the guidance of adults becomes essential. 5th July 2007, Quality of experience. You have been reading how the age of the child, gender, ecology, culture, resources available to the family and media determine the content of play, the time available for it as well as the space and material used for play. However, a major factor that influences the quality of children's play is the type of experiences they have in the family and neighborhood. The following two examples illustrate this point. In one family belonging to the lower social class, both the mother and the father leave for work early in the morning and return in the evening. Every day, before leaving, The mother massages the infant during which she talks to her and plays with her. The mother takes the child to her place of work. In the evening when both the parents return from work, the father plays with the child while the mother prepares the meal. In the second situation, an educated mother belonging to a rich family leaves the child in the crib for most of the day with toys placed beside her. She attends to her mostly to provide physical care and rarely interacts with the child. It is possible that the infant belonging to the first family has a better childhood. She has opportunities for learning and for developing a sense of security. Parents and caregivers who are aware of the importance of play activities for children can provide an environment conducive to play irrespective of economic status, education or ecological setting. Check your progress exercise. 4. Answer the following questions briefly in the space provided below. 1. List all tile factors that influence play. 2. Observe the play of a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old and list 2 activities for each of the 2 children. I. Activities of the 2-year-old. 2. Activities of the 5-year-old. State why these activities are different. 5.8. Summing UP. In this unit you have read about the importance of play for children. Though there is no single definition of play, certain characteristics that can be seen in play activities of children have been identified. We all agree that play for children is fun. Their participation in it is spontaneous and active. Children find play satisfying in itself. The play has an important role in children's development. It leads to discovery and learning, fosters imagination and helps to develop social, emotional, physical and language skills. Play is the best medium of learning for children because they enjoy it in play. Children learn by doing. This also helps to retain their attention to one activity. During infancy it is only through play that learning takes place. The play activities of children have been classified in different ways. The various classifications, as you have read, are outdoor and indoor play, free and structured play, individual and group play, vigorous and quiet play, and sensorimotor and symbolic play. All children play. However, age, gender, social class, ecology, culture and media influence the kind of play activities children choose. Play is also determined by the space, time and materials available for play. A factor is more important than any of the ones mentioned above is the quality of experiences available to the child. A caregiver who is aware of the importance of play activities for children can provide an environment conducive to play irrespective of her economic status, educational background or ecological setting. 5.9 Glossary. Denominations. The word means a unit of measure. Here it means learning the unit of money and names of various units. For example, recognizing a 10 paise coin and understanding that 10 paise make a rupee. Resentment, a deep sense of indignation, i.e. feelings of anger, fury, rage. Vocalizations, sounds produced using the voice. It includes crying, laughing, babbling and talking. Thank you, we will see you in the next video.